Hello, and welcome back, or welcome to Silence on the Sidelines. This is your host, Elizabeth King, a current high school soccer player and senior, a formerly injured athlete that decided to ignore my injuries, and a committed athlete for Franklin and Marshall next year. This episode is going to be pretty serious as it's about the actual damage that can happen when we decide to ignore our injuries. Alright, let's get to injuries. Injuries are an unfortunate part of life that can occur, especially in the athletic environment. I know it can be so tempting to brush off minor injuries or just simply ignore them. But ignoring injuries, no matter how minor, can and will have significant consequences. I'll be honest here. I've known this my whole life, and never once did that stop me. For me personally, it was never an issue of not knowing that playing while hurt would hurt me. It was more that I had more things going on and I frankly didn't really care. I was living in the moment, right? Well, it hurt me in the long run, and that's pretty much why I have this podcast. Like I said in the first episode, I got hurt, I ignored it, and it resulted in me getting more hurt. I had chronic ankle sprains as a little kid, and I never would have been chronic in the first place had I properly treated the first one as it happened, through PT. I know there are people out there listening that have been told, hey, you should probably do PT. And did they do it? Nope. No. Because who has time for that, right? Certainly not me. Well, now I'm paying for it. Had I taken the time when the injury happened and gone through a series of PT, I would not be sitting here having not played soccer for 6 months following an ankle surgery where I'd torn the ligaments in my ankle and broken my femur and damaged the cartilage. Your actions have consequences, and often you are the one that is hurting yourself with the choices you make. This isn't a fear to make you afraid of playing or being tough or whatever that means, but it just is a warning that your actions will have consequences. If I had properly just listened to what my doctor was telling me, I would have saved myself a lot of trouble later on. Now I'm going to explain the reasons why avoiding care for injuries can often lead to further complications and long-term health issues. So, number 1, delayed healing process. Of course, one of the most immediate consequences of playing on and ignoring care for your injuries is a delayed healing process. When we neglect to seek appropriate medical attention, such as proper first aid, or maybe getting that diagnosis, getting an x-ray, getting an MRI, doing your PT, we actually can prevent the injury from receiving the necessary treatment it requires. You have to act fast, though. The timing intervention is crucial to prevent further damage and to promote faster healing. Without proper care, injuries will take longer to heal, which, guess what, just means you're going to be in pain for longer, you're not going to be comfortable for longer, and there's a lot of other potential complications. There's also, too, the development of chronic conditions. Some injuries, even seemingly minor ones, have the potential to develop into chronic conditions if left untreated. Now, what almost made me laugh here is consistently throughout the documents that I use for my research, the sprained ankle was actually listed as the example. So, like I had said before, a sprained ankle that is not properly treated can often lead to chronic instability, recurrent pain, and, in my case, torn ligaments. When we avoid care for injuries, we actually risk exacerbating the individual problem and creating long-lasting health concerns that can significantly impact their quality of life. When I was originally getting told that I would need surgery, I was given 2 options. Well, really 3, but I made the third one up. I'll actually start with that option. I decided to seek a second opinion, which I always recommend. It's great to have an abundance of opinions. The more people that look at your circumstance, that understand you as a person, the more they are going to be able to give you accurate and personal advice and medical attention. So when I originally got told I need surgery, I sought another opinion, and they actually suggested PT, so I tried that out. Now, was it the option for me? No, because it didn't help, but I tried it out, and at least I took the step to try to heal myself. But really, when my surgeon told me that I would end up needing surgery, he said, well, here's option 1. You continue to do what you've done for so long and you ignore this injury. Now, I'm going to fast forward you a couple years into your life, and I don't want to make any assumptions about what you'll do, but here's a possibility. You will be, say, maybe 30 years old, and you'll be starting a family, and what's going to happen? You're going to try to pick up your kid, or maybe pick up the groceries, or walk around for your job, and you will experience significant pain all the time. Maybe you'll worsen your injury and roll your ankle again. Maybe you'll be modeling to your family that it's normal to ignore injuries. Or there's the second option. You get the surgery, which is going to be tough in the short term, but it'll help you out in the long term. Now, having the surgery has been really difficult, and I'll be honest, at times I've thought that I've made the wrong choice. Recovery is such a long and tough process, but I know deep down I made the right one. The third possible complication and long-term health issue that ignoring your injury can lead to is increased pain and discomfort. Ignoring injuries can result in increased pain and discomfort. Without proper care, injuries may worsen, leading to longer-lasting pain or the development of other issues. Discomfort could be resolved with treatment, but it can also become chronic and affect every part of your day-to-day life, your mobility, and your overall well-being. Ignoring pain can also create compensatory patterns where the body is going to then overuse other muscles or shift weight to compensate for the injured area. So maybe you injured your ankle. You're going to begin putting more weight on the other ankle, right? But that can actually lead to additional strain and another injury. The next possible outcome is a loss of functionality and performance. Avoiding care for injuries can also often result in a loss of the ability to perform. When your injuries are not taken seriously and you don't treat them early or appropriately, they might actually make you worse at your sport. Maybe that means you have decreased strength, flexibility, endurance, and overall athletic performance. But neglecting care can prevent you from properly rehabilitating and can prolong the recovery process, making it more challenging to regain full functionality. Now, like I said in the previous episode, we all experience pain differently, and on the surface, we might look like we're doing just as well. But in reality, if you are playing while injured, you are hurting yourself. Now, another thing it can result in is emotional and psychological impacts. I'm going to go into a whole episode about mental health later, but I do think it's important to talk about. When we avoid care for injuries and just focus on the physical side, we really miss out on one of the most important topics that often are dismissed about for athletes. When we're dealing with persistent pain, limited mobility, and frustration of not being able to participate in normal activities, of course it leads to emotional distress. Of course we feel anxious. Of course we feel depression. Of course we're focused on all that we can't do. Ignoring injuries can create a negative cycle where everything is affected. Your mental well-being is affected. It is so incredibly crucial to take the time to address both the physical and emotional aspects of being injured. I know it is such a hard thing to do, but you have to think about long term. Your long-term health, your long-term happiness, and your long-term mobility is a lot more important than maybe one practice. I know, it's a crazy thing to say, but it's true, and a lot of athletes don't think about it. My name is Elizabeth King. Thank you so much for watching. Athletes, please listen to your bodies. If you are hurt, take the time to recover. That is grit. Speak up for yourself. Self-advocacy is so incredibly important, and it's not emphasized enough. Be the change. Be the individual that is comfortable in making the harder decision of choosing to recover. Thank you.